Guyana's opposition threatens to resume protests. And in sport, Barbados Pride, TNT Red Force and Guyana Jaguars pick up wins in their opening games of the regional Super 50. I'm Ricardo Roberts and this is Caribbean in 10 for Friday, November 8th, 2019. I'll be back with the details after the break.
We'll start with the sauce for the filling. Place a medium saucepan over medium heat and melt in 8 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Stir in 3 tablespoons of flour and let that simmer for about a minute, whisking constantly. Next, whisk in 1/4 cup of water and 1 cup of sugar.
Sea-Trek was one of the first outfitters in Baja 35 years ago. We started running trips down there in the mid-'80s, early to mid-'80s. At that time, these were kayak expeditions, sort of old school trips where you loaded everything in the boat and off you went. Exploring coastlines, no permits, no rules, no regulations. And over time, we refined the trips.
Guyana's opposition leader Barack Jagdeo is threatening to call out his supporters to resume protests if President David Granger does not dissolve Parliament soon ahead of the March 2020 elections. Jagdeo was speaking at his weekly press conference yesterday. We get more in this News Source Guyana report.
Let him delay that and we resume the protests because that's part of the holding of elections or the dissolution of Parliament. And so I'm making it clear to him if he thinks he's going to hang on there.
Mr. Jagdeo brushed aside the president's recent statement that he's keeping the parliament open right now just in case there might be the need for emergency funding. Jagdeo said emergency funding could be accessed through the contingency fund, and the president ought to be aware of that.
But Parliament doesn't have to exist to have access to the contingency fund. And in any case, he can't pass a budget, so the 112 provisions would kick in next year.
President Granger has already issued a proclamation for the 2nd of March 2020 elections.
Staying in Guyana, a new political party, which President David Granger was in discussions on possible collaboration, has made it clear it will remain independent heading into the polls. Earlier this week, Granger said preliminary exploratory talks with leader of the Liberty and Justice Party, LJP, Lennox Schumann, had not moved forward since last month. And at a press conference yesterday, Schumann made his party's position clear.
Last night we had a motion carried in line with Article 4.1 of the Liberty and Justice Party's constitution that states that we are not going to coalesce with any political party going into this election unless the national security or national interest of this country demands it. At this point, we are of the firm belief that the country is in need of balance. At this point, the Liberty and Justice Party represents what we call a balance in this country. And along those lines, we are going to be heading into the elections of 2020 as the Liberty and Justice Party, not as an appendage of any party, not in coalition with any other party.
Over in Trinidad and Tobago now, a former Chief of Defense Staff is urging government to put things in place to bring back Trinidadian children indoctrinated into ISIS and to reintegrate them into society. The call is coming from retired Major General Ralph Brown, who was the commanding officer of the regiment during the 1990 coup. TV6's Renessa Cotton reports.
While security fears are valid, retired Major General Ralph Brown believes they should be brought back home.
A lot of people may not agree with me. They may feel that these families took their kids away to join ISIS and to fight as ISIS fighters. But let's face it, some of the children not all of them, but most of them, had no choice in the matter.
Brown is urging all state agencies to prepare for their return with the intent to rehabilitate.
So separating them from the rest of the society is a no-no. Stigmatizing them is also a no-no, because that may go further to even further radicalize them. You know, so the Children's Authority, the judges, even the magistrates, even the courts have a role to play.
Brown adds, however, balance must be struck between what is best for them and the state's security.
Constant monitoring is very important. Even after they have been reintegrated, I think it is important that they must be monitored.
Independent research from a UK professor, Dr. Simon Cott, says as of 2018, 42 children were taken by their parents from TNT to ISIS battlegrounds.
And stay with us, your Midday Sport is next. Welcome back. It's now time for sport action in the Regional Super 50. Continued yesterday with Barbados Pride, TNT Red Force and Guyana Jaguars picking up wins in their opening encounters. Playing at Warner Park, Pride dismissed the Jamaica Scorpions by 75 runs despite a 4-wicket haul by Andrew McCarthy and O'Shane Thomas. Nicholas Curtin top scored with 55, while Kyle Mayers also added a half-century as Pride set a commanding total of 265 in their innings. But the Scorpions' runs chase was undermined by Barbadian off-spinner Ashley Nurse as they were bundled out on 190 in 39 overs. Nurse picked up match figures of 4 for 26, while Chima Holder bagged 3 for 37. Andrew McCarthy returned to the crease with a blistering 90, albeit to a losing effort. Over at the Queen's Park Oval in Port of Spain, centuries by experienced batsman Darren Bravo and Jeremy Solozano condemned Windward Islands Volcanoes to a defeat by 8 wickets to host TNT Red Force. Chasing a competitive 238 for 8 set by the Windward Islands, Bravo was large and in charge with an unbeaten 115, while Solozano was equally entertaining with the bat with his unbeaten 102 as Red Force raced to the target with just about 8 overs to spare. Kavim Hodge and Desron Maloney were the top scorers for the Windward Islands. And at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy in Tarouba, the Jaguars brushed off West Indies emerging players, winning by 2 wickets. Needing 186 to win, the Jaguars got across the line after a brilliant knock by Kimal Savory. He scored an unbeaten 71, while Chris Barnwell added 36. Barbadian seamer Keon Harding was the pick of the bowlers, taking 4 for 35. The emerging players scored 185 for 8 when they took to the crease. Barbadian all-rounder Justin Graves top scored with 55, while Roland Cato chipped in with 37. That's Caribbean in 10. Join us again at 6:30 for Caribbean Newsline. Until then, good afternoon.